I think we went live. I always wonder, right? It says, and then I know there's a delay. Um, so I always go, yeah, okay. I mean, OBS doesn't lie though. We are live. Welcome. It's Monday night. We are hanging out, and really, hey, what's up, man? How are you, Scott? Good to see you. And we're gonna talk. This is gonna be sort of my session 0, if that makes any sense. This is going to be a session 0 of our solo traveler campaign, and I don't have. I mean, yeah, I am good to hear. Good to hear. It is going to be a long week, if today was any indication. I was like, oh God, shoot me! It's only flipping Monday. Be a long week, and no Monday off to sort of like salve it, right? Even today I was thinking, oh, thank God it's Tuesday, but tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm like, nope, not true. You are a day ahead. Stop it. So yeah, so we're gonna talk about all aspects of the campaign here. We're gonna talk about Traveller. We're going to talk about rules changes, because God forbid I'm not making any. I am. Spoilers, I am. we're gonna do that too. We'll get the characters. We'll give you give that background. If we have time and we're still a little bit of momentum, then maybe we'll do like a little bit of a mock combat here to sort of test the combat rules. We'll gear the characters up since they don't have any gear right now. Heck, do they have any money? Yeah, I think they all have some cash. Now, mind you, I've screwed myself because I make weapons and armor more expensive in the Sunder province than it is in the typical Traveller book, so my characters will likely be undergunned early. But the goal, of course, is to have something to covet, right? Covet the cool weapons, and so on. Hey, what's up, Luke? How are you? Good to see you. Welcome. So yeah, so that's my introduction to my introduction. Let's talk about what this campaign is going to be, and what sort of I'm hoping to get out of it. Because it is a little bit different than the Runebearer campaign. The Runebearer campaign, I was really just looking to be able to play a little bit more Runebearer. And of course, you're all staring at this giant white screen, which is sort of sad. Here, I'll give you, there you go, excitement. I mean, we're not playing the Traveller starter pack, but I did download it so that I'd have a background. So the Runebearer campaign is literally, I wanted to do that so that I would have a little bit of impetus to write more rules and get that game closer to completion, because again, I'm lazy as a GM and as a game writer. I tend to write what we're going to play next week or the week after and so on. And so playing a second campaign to explore more bits of the rules, that seemed like a logical. And it did. It actually did that. Now, Traveller, I don't actually have that motivation because obviously I'm not writing Traveller. Traveller's written already. What's the motivation here? I think that what I'm looking to get out of this is I do love science fiction. And I love science fiction games. We have not played a science, Scott will attest to this, we really haven't played a science fiction game really to any length for quite a while, unless you count like superheroes, but that doesn't count. That's a totally different genre. And so I would love to play one now, but I don't want to write one. like that's the thing. I was like, oh, I would love to do some sci-fi, but I don't want to commit to then writing a game for sci-fi. That is insane. Now, as you will see, because there's a little bit of self-loathing, I've still sabotaged myself, as we will talk about here in a minute. So the idea was, let's play some sci-fi. We had a game very short, which sort of fell apart, mostly my fault. And so I wanted to revisit that setting a little bit. And so that's what we're going to revisit. So that's what I want to talk about sort of first. And first, where the heck is it? There we go. I'll bring up the quote unquote complete map. So we're not using, there's a lot of stuff in Traveller that we're just not going to use. And one of the things we're not going to use, this is part of my self-sabotage, by the way. We're not going to use the standard Traveller setting, the Third Imperium. Not that I don't like the Third Imperium. I think the Third Imperium is perfectly fine. It is very big. There's, it has that weird justification for everything being in there, like being kitchen sink, right? Because the Imperium is sort of loosey-goosey, and there's planets all over the place. And so you could have a desert planet over here ruled by cannibal warlords, and you could have a very high-tech world, and so you could have Zardoz over here and Logan's Run over there, and it all sort of fits in the Third Imperium. And I do appreciate that about the setting. But I think I love sort of science fiction settings, and I love I love world building, and that's sort of my joy. You came up with all the yes, I've come up with all this, and like I said, it's all self-sabotage, Luke. So we're gonna do this is the Sunder province. Now you're seeing a PDF. It's a big PDF, so it's sort of shit zoomed out, right? I do have smaller partial maps made. Let me move my Traveller folder so I can actually see it past chat. But then I have to sort of piece them together. So we will. Let me get the one that matters. This one will matter early. And so I'll show you this first, right? So this is the Sunder province. So let's talk about the campaign setup. Where is the region briefing? So we do have a region briefing. I'm not going to read this to you. That would be silly, but I am going to go over at least some of the points, if that makes any sense. So we're also going to posit that there is a galactic empire that rules tons and tons and tons of worlds. I mean, right? Done. That's super fun. So we're going to posit that there's the Solaran Empire. It's the empire of humanity, theoretically based on, theoretically has come from the Sol system. I don't know that I can actually, I mean, don't get me wrong, I haven't thought about any of this that deeply. so bear that in mind. And I'm sort of doing the Gary Gygax thing of write only as much as you need for the first, set of adventures. Now, mind you, this is a little more than that. But it's not much more than that. So I don't know if the Sol system still exists, or if it's been long lost, or if it's, they've drifted, or if it's been destroyed itself in a ecological, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. What matters is it's big. And as you can see here, the Sunder province is on the southwest frontier of the empire, approximately 160 light years from the capital, Jewel. So that is theoretically the center of the empire, is Jewel. And the way that faster than light travel works in this particular universe, that puts them about 4 to 6 months from the capital. So you can travel about a light year a day in this. You can travel about you can travel about a light year a day. Depending on the ship, anywhere between 7 and 9 light years at a time before you have to stop. And we'll talk about that because we will go over how all that works. I don't know how I don't know how good a stream this is going to be. This is literally going to be like the lore dump. So, and then maybe we'll gear some people up and shoot some dudes. Maybe, but we're going over the lore dump. So 160 light years puts us about 4 to 6 months away from, so this is far, right? Something happens and you're 4 months from the capital. That, that's a long way. And if you have to send, and there's no faster than light communication. So what that means is to get a message and then get a response is about 8 months, which is a long flipping time. So that means this is fairly far flung, and this is fairly independent from the imperial authority. So it's a lot like colonial America from the Brits, right? You have, maybe even more so, because that's I don't think it's 4 to 6 months on ship from across. At least Europa Universalis doesn't make it seem like that. So before the Empire, lots of different branches of humanity sort of expanded out, and this was part of the Second Great Expansion, right? And these guys existed for centuries as independents before the Empire. So then the Empire sort of formed in the middle of around the capital, around Jewel, and then they went and they started expanding their influence, right? So, picture you're the barbarians up in England, and then all of a sudden the Romans show up and they're like, hey guys, we have an empire and you're part of it now. Good luck. And you're like, no, we don't want to be. And then they smack you down and tell you, no, I think you are. And that's sort of what happened here. Only imagine now that everyone came from Rome. All of these people came from Jewel, effectively, or they came from the center of the empire. So these people are of the same stock, right? But there's tons of cultural and ethnic differences from what the empire is now. So these folks resent imperial rule. So the idea is that picture the empire ruling over, these worlds and its own worlds. And you can see the empire right up here. There's just a couple little dots. The system of Weald here and Hadrian right there. These are the only bridges into this province from the empire. And we'll talk about that when we talk about star travel. Why is that? It's because there's a hard limit on how far you can go, and that limit is 9 of these hexes. The farthest jump you can make is 9. And some ships can only go 8, and some can only go 7, and very, very old ships might only be able to go 6, and so on. But it is very typical to have a ship that can only go 8 or 7 or 9 light years. And so that makes choke points throughout here and little highways throughout here that become very important. It turns out that Vespor and Hadrian, and then Weald and Valence, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Zig 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah, and Goddard. So all of these are approachable, but this guy right here, and I can't ping it, unfortunately. I can circle it though. So these two systems are where the empire would come in if they were going to come in. So anyway, so imagine then that there is some upheaval in the empire, a galactic civil war as it was, and the emperor dies, he's assassinated, there's an usurper, right? And all of a sudden, as that news propagates, you have imperial ships fighting imperial ships, you have bases being bombed, you have ships being scuttled or bases being scuttled all across these. You have ships being pulled back, being called back from their posts to defend the capital, right? And so on. Everyone's taking sides. It's a mess. And the provinces all around the border of the empire, including Sunder, but we're including at least 4 more provinces. Well, we're not including, they're not going to be part of the campaign, but we are positing that 4 more of these provinces around the borders of the empire decide, you know what, we've had it with you guys, and we're going to kick you out. And using the Civil War and using the pullback, the empire sort of pulling back many of their ships and many of their troops, and just the general chaos, that these guys do indeed sort of manage to boot the empire out, or, you know, batter them down or fight them to certain pockets. The Vesporans are at the forefront of this, and the Vesporan Revolution. Let's see, what there is one of these somewhere. The Vesporan. So this is the northeast corner here. You'll see this is this map, right? So this Vesporan Revolution, they make good. They have a couple. Hey, what's up, man? Cool Ranch. Oh, Dustin, welcome. First, welcome. Second, I freaking love Cool Ranch Doritos. You see this right here, this Slate Old Man pouch I have right here hanging down that I use the stubble to cover up and hide, camouflage. Let's understand something. That's because of Doritos. Never met one I didn't like, by the way. Never met one I did not thoroughly enjoy. So the Grand Vesporan Revolution, or the Glorious Vesporan Revolution, indeed has like a military genius, right? If Scott cared, if Scott cared, and probably wasn't 20 beers in, he'd be on his way right now. Doritos are a top tier chip. I also like a dill potato chip, like a fake dill potato chip. Although I've had cheeseburger Doritos once, and the main flavor was, he doesn't care. The main flavor was a pickle, and I was like, "Oh, this is delicious because it's pickle." I love that. So the Vesporans actually had a coup, and they staged a mutiny on one of the largest ships in the sector, which is the ISS Hammer. I do remember Buffalo Ranch Doritos. I don't dislike those either. I appreciate them. And so they mutiny. They get a whole host of. They manage to station a lot of Vesporan and sympathetic officers on the light cruiser, the Hammer. They take over the Hammer, and all of a sudden, they have the biggest navy in the region, or the most powerful navy in the region, because they have. I don't know how big the Hammer. How big is the Hammer? Let me look at my notes here. Yes, Admiral Tarov, the Just Hammer, 20 kiloton, which is big for this particular universe. 20 kilotons is big. It's a light cruiser. A battleship would be something along the lines of 50 plus kilotons. Cruisers are 12 to 10 to 20 or so, and so on. But those are, in this universe, big ships. Not big in terms of Star Wars or whatever. Star Destroyers are god-awful gigantic. But all the ships in this universe are fairly small, 50,000 tons. And a ton is not a unit of mass. If those of you that have played Traveller before, it is a unit of displacement. And a ton is equal to 1 ton of liquid hydrogen, which is used as fuel for the fusion power plants on these ships. It just so happens that a ton of liquid hydrogen is approximately a single hex on a deck plan. And so that works out really well. So the Just Hammer would have about 20,000 on its deck plan, about 20,000 hexes. To compare, like a scout ship is 100 tons. So a ship that the characters might have might be 200 tons or 100 tons. So this thing is 20,000, right? So cut off 2 zeros and you get, so this thing is what? 200 times larger than that ship that they have. So it's big. And so the Vesporans are trying to form, so this little group of planets here, the blue, the weird looking blue, have hijacked themselves a powerful ship and are then starting to form a navy. Now the problem is, in the fighting and in the aftermath, a lot of the ability to service a craft of that size in this region of space is gone. And so the Vesporans have a ship they cannot maintain by themselves. And so they are looking to be, and they think they're going to be on the forefront of whatever the Empire's retaliation is when the Empire gets its shit together in, I don't know, 10 years, right? And so they are looking to make a navy. And that's where the first adventures are going to come in. The player characters are going to have to essentially escape because the Vesporans are going to try to be commandeering every civilian ship. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a terrible policy because you're essentially saying, hey, traitors, stay away. But their initial, their instinct at this point is to try to commandeer as many ships as possible to sort of produce as much of a flotilla as they can. And the player ship's going to get caught up in that. And our PCs are going to have to then escape the Vesporan Revolution. And that's going to be sort of the first set of adventures. So yeah, so what do we have here? Yeah, Vesporan Revolution has a history of service to the Empire, criticized by the rest of Sunder for being posers, lapdogs to the Emperor. So ex-Admiral Tarov, he essentially staged this coup. There you go. The Imperials have retreated, and then Vesper is trying to desperately get their crap together, trying to hold on to their independence for as long as possible. And now you have no Imperial ships getting in. Trade is drying up. And so it's a little bit of a mess. Now, around Vesper are a bunch of smaller states. Callus, Buther, Enthelt, all these are independent. The Three Sisters is a rough alliance. These are 3 monarchies run by, you guessed it, 3 sisters. What else do we got here near? The Alzir's alliance. And all these guys are essentially worried that the Vesporans are going to try to push their advantage, and they're much more capable and larger navy for as long as it stays more capable, and try to push their boundaries. And that's sort of the beginning of the campaign. And we do have a bunch of other states around, and whether they actually become relevant or not, I don't actually know where the campaign ends up going. I don't have an overarching plot other than the first plot is escape from Vesper. And that's sort of the first plot. Now, the funny part is I thought, well, they could try to escape to the Empire. But what I'm going to say is that there's a reason they can't. And I don't know why that is, but they will probably be stopped in Hadrian if they flee to the Empire. I think that most of the characters, at least 2 of the characters, are Thunderan nationals. They are provincials. They grew up here. One of them In fact, who do we have here? We have, if you remember, Thomas. So we'll pull up Thomas here. So Thomas, if you recall, I think he was our naval guy who was trying to get his social standing up because he wanted to be seen as a noble, like, so his local family, like his family belongs here, either in Vesper or in, I was thinking Three Sisters, possibly, that's where his family is. And so being a reasonably well-known, since he did spend some time in the Navy, he was forced out of the Navy in disgrace. That was the Imperial Navy. Like, he actually probably has a record. So if they pull up into the Empire, I think they would be worried about what happens to some of these folks. So I don't think they can turn to the Empire. I think they have to make a decision as to where to go. And that might be fleeing to either the Alzer's Alliance, to Three Sisters, although Thomas doesn't want to go back there because if you recall, his family was disgraced, or to Callus. So they're going to try to escape from here. Theoretically from Vesper. Oops, I can't. Can I delete that? Yeah. Theoretically from Vesper to Emerson, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe to Ewan, maybe to Callus. Sunder, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so maybe they make the two jumps and they would only have to escape Vesper and then Emerson and then escape to one of these 3 other worlds. Perhaps. Don't know. I'll delete those drawings. So that's sort of what I'm thinking as far as sort of the start of the campaign. Now, the reason this campaign died at the table, there's a couple reasons. What's up? Maybe Thomas has a lost love in the 5 brothers system. No, 7 brothers, because there's 7 no, forget it. Anyway, how are you, Nutmeg? But yeah, so I do think, and I don't think the group does not have a ton of cash starting out. I think I will give them a ship that they have theoretically purchased previously with their ship shares, because they have between them 3 ship shares, which I think is $3 million toward a ship. But that's not going to be enough. We will go over all what possibly they're going to fly in. And we'll have to make a decision as to like what kind of ship they want, because it could be rather expensive for them, and they're going to have to theoretically make payments. Although who knows, with the Civil War going on, spoilers, they will, because Galbank, because I'm doing great today. Good to hear it. Because Galbank, strangely enough, has a contingency for this shit. They literally have a, hey, if Civil War breaks out, contingency to continue operation. And so Galbank's contingency is to essentially each branch becomes its own one beer. Oh my God, just one. Well, good for you. Good for you. That is very healthy of you, sir. So, yeah, so Galbank, and I think there's the Tolan Mining Corporation and so on. A lot of these large corporations in the Empire have contingency plans for being cut off. And those contingencies typically are that they will essentially become their own independent entities until such time as contact can be made with the main office. That could be years, because again, it takes 4 months to get a message back to the core of the Empire. And so Galbank essentially takes over a star system and is like, yep, this is ours. we are Galbank. And so the PCs, when they end up with their ship wherever, will indeed get a notice that, hey, you still have to pay, by the way. we still can track your ship. You know, we ain't cool with the rule. Oh, the rule of Malcolm? Yes. The benevolent rule of Malcolm. We'll talk about that at some point. He's a little bit of a nutbag, yes. But by the way, Galbank is not cool with the glorious rule of Malcolm either, because Malcolm erased all debt in Malcolm, and he essentially is trying to print his own money, etc., going against Galbank entirely. So Galbank would love for that mess to go away. So yeah, the glorious rule of Malcolm. Malcolm is a very charismatic imperial noble that decided he was taking over. He did take over. He's doing what he can to sort of, but again, he's charismatic. So so these planets are pretty juiced about his rule. But Galbank, Tollon Mining, like none of his neighbors are, because yeah, they're all nah, because he's essentially literally going against all. Like, he is setting up to be I don't know what you want to call it. Like, he's, like I said, printing his own money. He has essentially erased all debt from Galbank, right? Took all their shit, that kind of thing. And so they're not super happy with him. And that could be a place. That could be a place for work. That's the goal of this, frankly. Can I actually zoom in anymore? No, it's sort of killing me a little bit. There we go, Skippy. Okay. So my goal in making this was just to have a lot of possible places for the characters to get involved and do work. To do stuff, right? 3 sisters, 3 monarchies ruled by a different sister. 2 of the 3 systems are large agricultural exporters. Vesper have called 3 sisters to join them or declare a formal alliance. The sisters aren't too down with that, but are sort of holding their grain over the Vesborn revolution in an attempt, right, to keep their alliance. We have the Highway, which is sort of this set of worlds, and they have sort of joined together to, what do you want to say, just to try to keep commerce flowing as best they can. Kalos and Enthelt are imperial deserters, warlords, planets, essentially, which is pretty much what all the light blue are all run by, sort of local warlords of some sort, and they're not part of any other government. So we have a lot of that. We won't go over all these because it may never matter. Like, the campaign might literally be these 20 worlds or whatever right here. These are all human worlds. I do not have any secret aliens or any aliens at all at the moment. I was thinking that the Reach would be somewhere where we might put aliens. But the Empire, as of yet, with all of its 2,000 worlds, has not met a starfaring alien species yet. But I was thinking down in the Reach would be the place where that would happen, potentially. And that's why I put, you'll notice, like, none of these are part of anything. And we have a couple sort of independent warlord systems, right? And that's all you got down there. And then down here, I don't even know what this is called, since I cut it off on my PDF. Then you have aliens showing up, maybe. And that, again, would be a place where maybe one of these, either Bevan Industries or one of these independent worlds, maybe hires folks to go, hey, we'd like to expand, but we don't have the capability to go and send. So we're going to hire your ship, go survey some stuff for us, find us something that is, useful and habitable and so on, right? and give us the rundown on some of these systems. I don't know that that is this campaign, to be quite honest with you. I have no flipping idea where we're going to end up once we get out of here. But yeah, so we do also have maybe psionics and maybe not down here in the Volan worlds. The Volan worlds are, if you'll notice, sort of off in their own, almost, I don't, one, two, like, can they, I hope someone can reach them, because it doesn't make sense if no one can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. So you'll notice there's only a couple ways in. And so yeah, Ollie to Warnock, Ollie to Vastu. It might be it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so literally here to Warnock, here to Vastu, and that's it. And that's where the Empire did all of its weird experiment shit. So they used the fact that you couldn't get that a giant base here to sort of block off, to block these worlds off effectively. And so these worlds, this isn't really a great, yeah, they're mutant. Yes, sort of, a little bit, maybe. Yes, 100%. They are mutant freaks, Nutmeg. That is the intent. So there is all kinds of question as to whether, yes, there are rumors, right? That whole thing. Oh man, they did chemical experiments on the people of Astrid 4, and oh, they're all psionics, that kind of crap. And so the Volan are sort of their own mini culture inside of the Sunder province, and people do not trust them at all and see them as sort of freaks. I do love how every so often the PDF freaks out and it hates. It's like, no, you can't zoom anymore, dude. No more zooming. So then I have to sort of cheat. What is this? This is just Firefox. Okay, just Firefox. There we go. Well, and and they I think I don't know yet. I do have to make sure I have enough, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so you can barely get so like these planets are even so crazy far away, because if you think you have to go from Vastu to Felinar to Volan. I have to figure out how to do that though. I know there is a so Nutmeg asked if I can put the map in Tabletop Sim. You actually can put it in Tabletop Sim. I have to figure out how to do that. There is a D&D mapping program, and I know I can load PDFs and images into that, and then it shows it on the table. And I could possibly do that. But yeah, so these guys here are even more remote, because if you think about it, you'd have to go 9 days to here, 9 days to here, 9 days to here. You're almost a month away from the rest of civilization just getting to here. So I do find that sort of intriguing. And then we have a lot of, right, there's, the communists here in Workers' Rest, the uber capitalists in Galbank and Toulon Mining. You have the Interrans. The Interrans believe themselves to be the true. So these are the Taiwanese, effectively, to the Empire. These guys feel that they are the actual, honest to goodness Terran original stock humans. They think that the humans in Jewel are like an inferior stock, right? They think that they're not the true first Terrans. These guys think they're the first Terrans, so they are using this, and they are gathering sort of their own strength here, and they are being held in place only by the First Terran Union, who has, it's rumored to have contact with the Empire through Wield, and are sort of vaguely holding off in Terran aggression by threatening to allow the Empire to come back through their worlds there. So I hope there's a lot potentially going on that we have sort of access to. But the funny part is, as I think about all this campaign, I go, yeah, it's very possible that we never get out of these worlds up here in the Northeast. Like, it could just be, oh yeah, I sort of love the Interrans. I do want them to play some part, because I love that. It's a very pretentious sort of concept, right? No, we're the first humans, not y'all. It's us. And we got out, we came here months away from y'all because we just can't stand how shitty y'all are. So we came across, and now that the Empire has sort of fallen apart a little bit, they are trying to take advantage. Let me real quick, just checking that my connection's good. It seems like it's okay. So I think we're mostly alive. We have some Corsair worlds, so a bunch of ships, traders, ex-Imperials that decided, you know what, we're going to take our ships. We made a YouTube video about it, so it must be true. We're going to take our ships. We're going to go, and they gathered together and sort of made a rough. I want to say they made their own Tortuga, right? They made their own clans. Powerful pirate clans banded together, took control of a critical region of Sunder. They send their little raiding parties everywhere. They're fairly powerful because they probably have a lot of smaller pirate ships. They're used to running 100, 200 ton ships with like civilian grade guns strapped on them. So they're more than a match for most of the regional powers, but obviously not the Vesporans, not the Interrans, not the Volon. But again, the Corsairs are also sort of fighting each other all the time, that kind of thing. So yeah, so we do have a lot. I will definitely put this on my my Google Drive if anyone's interested in reading the rest of this. But you have a lot of little states. Oops, I don't know what I just closed. We have a lot of little states sort of all trying to survive and fighting for their own piece of the pie. Did I accidentally? I closed the big map. Well, there you go. Clever me. So that's sort of where we're at with this first part of the campaign. And like I said, the first part is going to be, I think the characters are going to start here. For no better reason than I can name it, Welcome to Vesper, Have a Nice Day is my my first title. And their goal is going to be to escape and not have their ship be pressed into service for the Navy of the Vesporan Revolution. That's the goal, first goal. And we will probably start very much in the middle of that action right there. So I think that's probably good enough for campaign setup. I don't know if anybody actually, if you have questions, fire them away. That's cool. If not, I would like to take a quick break because I, of course, because I am an awful person, I am going to go get a drink. And then I would like to talk about Traveller itself and the rules and how much of a purist I am not, because I am going to be tweaking the Traveller rules left and right because I want to make this hard on myself. So let me take 5 minutes, and then I will come right back here and do that. So let me turn the webcam off. Getting a drink, 5 minutes. All right. What kind of booze they have on Vesper? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I hope they have burr rye. I hope to God they have a burr rye. What is Vesper? Well, let's look at Vesper. Hold on. Well, now that you've asked, Vesper cocktail. Let's take a look at Vesper. So here's our Vesper Atlas. Let me make it as big as possible. You might have a chance to read it. Yeah. So Vesper has 8 planets, right? 8? Yeah, 8 planets. I don't like how this lines up, but that's not my gig. Of them, the first 3, the inner 3 are just a mess, right? They are, I think the sun is reasonably hot. And so the habitable zone is 2.2 astronomical units away from the sun. That is hospitable. Minerals and chems, ick. Yeah, so they have minor agriculture. It is a thin tainted atmosphere, but it does have a standard oxygen nitrogen mix, but you probably need respirators to actually breathe it. It does have water. Hydrographic percentage is 60. So a reasonable amount of water. There's a temperate biome and a desert biome. The characters are starting in the desert biome, by the way. But they import most of their food. So they probably import their booze too, is my guess. There probably is not a ton of food for grain left over for booze making. So, and what? The population is tens of millions. 10 to the 7th. yeah, dude, Nutmeg, God, this is going to be so much work. What am I doing? Yeah, so I can't help, like, this is what I love about science fiction. This is what I love about sci-fi. I love this shit. I love looking at that list and going, well, what does that mean for us, right? So they do have some other bases. You'll notice they have on V5, they've got some mining and chemical production. And then on V7, some more mining. And then no one knows. Oh, no, all good, man. And then V9 or V7, there's a rumored pirate base, or V8, I'm sorry. Could have had one, forgot. And so the players are going to start on Vesper right there. You can't see what but I'm clicking right here. So the players are going to start there on Vesper. The Vesporan Navy does have ships here and here because they don't want any ships to come in and refuel at these gas giants. They want them to have to land because they're because they're jerks. Because they are, trying to press ships into service. So the Just Hammer actually starts the campaign here. Big, massive, powerful, evil ship of doom. Starts here, and then there's a bunch of other smaller ships obviously hanging out all over the place here and here. And of course Vesper would have a navy as well, at least some ships there as well. So it's gonna actually be a little bit rough. I have to have the contingency in my head that the players might be captured, first adventure captured, and then I have to figure out what the hell happens if they are actually captured by the Vesporans and their ship is confiscated and pressed into service. So yeah, they have 6. So, but the interesting thing is, I think, about this campaign is going to be that no one has a lot of functional ships of any size. So it just, there's no giant fleets of Imperial ships floating around. I mean, Galbank probably has one of the biggest fleet. The Vesporans have a big fleet, but not super big here. So in any case, we'll see. But yeah, so they don't have any good booze. Is the sad part. I'm a little bummed. No, we're not going to say those marks. So yeah, so let's talk about the game itself. I literally bought so many Traveller books, ridiculous number of Traveller books. So I have the Mongoose 2nd edition rules. We're going to be using at base Mongoose Mongol Publishing. No, Mongoose Publishing. We're going to be using Mongoose 2nd edition Traveller rules, and we actually have the 2022 update. So we have the second version of the 2nd edition rules, I believe. And what I have found as I have read these rules and I have looked at the combat rules and looked at the ship rules is these rules are perfectly serviceable, but do not excite me much, unfortunately. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is it's simply harder. Science fiction, I feel, is a harder genre for tabletop games for me. And Scott can chime in on this too, since we've had this discussion. But one reason it is for me and my group, as it were, we do like fighting. Like, we do like combat. Combat is an important part of our games. It's not the only part of our games, but it is an important part of our games. And combat is made harder in science fiction for a couple reasons. One is you're in civilization. You really shouldn't be shooting people 9 times out of 10. You're in civilization, right? So it's harder to do that. You can't go in to the goblin lair, smash up the goblins and take their shit and find something cool in there. Even if you do that to bandits or ruffians or the mob, it's very likely that you doing that will then cause some kind of inquiry as to what the hell were you doing carrying automatic weapons into that den of thieves and shooting them up. Like, you still might be charged with a crime. So there is that. The second thing is combat in Traveller, depending on the weaponry and the armor that you have in the fight, can be pretty brutal. If a gun does 3 die damage -3, that's an average of 7 points, and that's fine. An unarmored guy could easily be incapacitated by that gun. Especially an unarmored dude. Now, mind you, the armor in Traveller's really good too. almost too good actually in some cases, to the point where you could be wearing, cloth armor, and you could be wearing types of armor, and almost handguns do, in some cases do nothing to you. We probably won't have that situation for quite a while, and and so be it. Like, I don't think we have enough money for these characters to do that. And one thing I've done is, in this campaign, all weapons and armor cost 5 times what they would normally cost. We'll call that, we'll just say that's either the price, that's because of the war, the fact that they've been fighting wars for how long, the fact that all this military hardware is getting funneled into these new states and their new militaries or whatever. But instead of a gun costing like $500, it's going to cost $2,500. Instead of your armor costing, $1,000, it's going to cost $5,000, which puts our characters in a bad position because they don't have that much cash to start with, and they will definitely put themselves in hock pretty deep to get this ship up and running. And so, and I think one of the premises of the game is that they are starting on their last dime. Like, they are going for they're going for a good, their last 60,000 credits or whatever, and they're going to try to make a purchase and blah, blah, blah. And that goes bad. And that's where the mess starts. And that's where the campaign's going to start, is them literally having that last bit of cash on the table, and a shootout starts. Now, my fear is every character dies in this shootout. I would argue there's a non-zero chance that someone dies in the first fight, in the first half an hour of the campaign. Probably 20% chance. Let's just say that. Because if you don't have a lot of armor and you get shot by a handgun and take 2 dice, that might they're not going to kill you probably, but it might take you out of the fight pretty quick. So I don't even know where I was. Traveller. So we're playing Mongoose 2nd edition, but we're going to have several tweaks to Mongoose 2nd edition. Now, I mean, I don't think there's anyone watching this, so I'm not super concerned that I'm offending Traveller players. I am sort of concerned that if you put Traveller up and people want to see Traveller and I'm playing a slightly tweaked version, that people are going to get pissed. But we'll see. We'll see how that all works. So what are the tweaks going to be? I'm offended on their behalf. Thank you, Nutmeg. Thanks. I appreciate that, sir. What are the tweaks going to be? So the first tweak is going to be, let's see, where the hell's my shit? The first tweak is that so we're not using theater of the mind combat. So Traveller at its base sort of roughly goes and says, hey, you don't need to map combat. It's guns anyway, dude. So they're just at a range, and we're just going to do range bans. And I get it. It is gun combat. And if you're facing off at 100 yards away from each other, movement is not really what you're concerned about. You're concerned about everything other than movement for the most part. And I get that, right? And gun combat can have that a little bit unfun aspect. In melee combat, positioning is super important. Runebearer is based around the fact that positioning is key. And hell, we just had a fun fight this Saturday where it was great, where everybody, people were all over the battlefield. And I mean, that's the kind of fight I like. Gun combat tends to not be like that. It's a little bit more about hardware. I mean, cover is important, of course, but it's really about hardware and getting the drop on your opponent and so on. But having said that, we are not doing theater of the mind combat, and we're not using range bands solely. We are going to use a hex map. So do I have roll 20 up somewhere? I might have roll 20. I might not. Oh, maybe I don't. It does not look like it, indeed. Let me get roll 20 up. I must have closed my roll 20 window by accident. So we're going to get roll 20 up. So we're going to use a hex map. Now here's the other thing. God. And don't get me wrong, I do not want to. I'm not going to crap all over Traveller. It is a beloved game. I first played Traveller in the 3rd grade. Like, I love Traveller, but I love the thought of it more as an adult than I do the actuality of playing Traveller nowadays. So keep that in mind. I have a little bit of that going on. So we are going to use hexes. We are going to use, I think, 1 meter per hex. And that means a lot of our gunfights will be at a fairly close range. I call it room scale. And I think that actually plays. Don't get me wrong, we might have longer engagements in which we will not use the hex map the same way. We'll use maybe a zone map or something of that nature. And we'll do that when it's appropriate. If we're facing off 100 meters away from the enemy and they're in buildings and we're in the trees, then we're not going to necessarily use 1 meter at a time. We could, but we probably won't. Maybe we will. I don't know. I'll think about that. But I don't necessarily need to. But a lot of these fights are going to be in bar rooms, in hallways of ships, in hotel lobbies. Like, a lot of these gunfights, this one's going to break out in effectively the equivalent of a parking lot, where we were going to make a deal with a bunch of scavs and the deal went bad. By the way, I did buy actually some Roll20 things, including a bunch of cute Fallout tokens, which I am going to use for the PCs just because they're very distinct. I think the opponents will get normal tokens with a red outline. But I don't know who these guys are yet, but we're going to pull it. So this is like this is room scale, right? 1 meter per. You might be right next to this guy, and that might be the mess. And that's sort of how we're going to go. So we're going to do 1 meter hexes. The other thing which drove me nuts, by the way, is in the official Traveller rules, if they say if you do use map, do 1.5 meters per hex. Like, what? Why? Because it's 5 foot. I get it. I understand why they do it. The problem is that all their gun ranges are in meters. And so if you do a hex map, none of the gun ranges then make sense. Right? Because if a gun's effective range is 10 meters, that's no longer 5 hexes, and it's no longer 10 hexes. It's somewhere in between. So we're not going to do that. We're going to pick hero hexes 2 meters. Or we're going to pick GURPS hexes 1 meters. I might do hero. I might do GURPS. I have to think about that. The problem is, I think I wrote all these gun ranges in 1 meter intervals. The other thing that I wanted, and I don't know that this is necessarily a great idea, to be totally honest with you. Let me fix this this table. I like 2 meter too. Yeah, I get you. And I sort of agree with that. It just means I have to redo all the ranges of all the weapons. That's all. And maybe that works but anyway. So we'll get to the next. We'll get to the next point here, and then I will. Then we'll talk about it. The next thing I wanted is, so in the base Traveller rules, because they deal with such a broad span of technology, right? They go, well, tech level 7, tech level 9. This is a gun in tech level 7. This is a gun in tech level 9, tech level 12, right? There's not much differentiation within the guns. I'm saying that most of the Imperial, like the Imperium, the Empire of the Solaran Empire has a tech level of 12. Most of the planets have a tech level somewhere between, say, 9 and 12 for the most part. But I mean, but they all have access to technology, based on whatever trade they could have with the empire and so on and so forth. So the technology is all the same. So I don't need to go into, well, what's a gun look like at tech level 15, or what's a gun look like at tech level 6? We can just say, look, everybody has about the same tech level, but I do want guns to be different, and Traveller doesn't do that very well. Traveller, it's like, well, it's an auto pistol. This is the standard auto pistol used throughout the Empire, blah, 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 and it's about like this. And I go, that sucks, because I want all the guns to be vaguely interesting-ish, or somewhat interesting, or at least have some options. And don't get me wrong, they're very minor differences. You could just get away with using one pistol, one rifle, and you just could get away doing that 100%. And what I'm doing is absolutely unnecessary, but it makes me feel better. So, we're going to write up a much larger than this gun list. And we're going to cover all kinds of different guns. And the idea is going to be that, again, much like in, say, Borderland, you have different manufacturers or different companies. Those different companies are going to be known for different things. This one might be more accurate. One might be shitty guns, cheaper guns, harder hitting, but, and so on and so forth. And we're going to try to make a bunch of guns just to have little fun differences in the guns. And I just, because that to me is part of the fun. Part of the fun is carrying a mean streets cleaner submachine gun that is inaccurate and low damage, but has a bigger magazine and is cheaper. And one of the scavs, if they have a submachine gun, that's going to be it. Right? The other thing is, I am very much very much enjoy. I want there to be a reason to carry a pistol other than you're not allowed to carry a rifle. And don't get me wrong, some of this is absolutely perfectly realistic. That's not the intent. I did scour the internet on a lot of concealed carry sites and so on, talking about pistols versus rifles at, super short ranges and so on and so forth. So I have a tiniest bit of justification for this. It's not a great justification, but it's a little bit. And that is, the one advantage pistols are going to have over rifles is at room scale engagements within sort of the first X distance, they're going to either get a bonus or not be penalized, whereas rifles at that same room scale distance will have a -1 to hit. Rip to your YouTube suggestion. I mean, no one's watching this, Scott, so I'm not super worried. It's fine. I'm perfectly. My gun has a scissor attachment. What is that? See, I'm not a gun guy. Like, I'm a game guy, right? The only way I know anything about guns is games and Aftermath. And so what I would like is, I would like in a certain range that having gun X, like having a pistol, gives you a slight advantage. And that slight advantage is theoretically that you can move that thing around faster, target and draw a bead a tiny bit faster. Whereas a rifle takes a snapshot penalty, and again, like, going in whatever direction, like I can go to the left pretty easily two-handed, but two-handed to the right is actually somewhat difficult for me. Actually, I'm very not flexible. So rifles at super close ranges are going to be slightly penalized. It's not that big of a penalty. I would still carry a rifle 9 times out of 10, I think. But I just wanted there to be a little bit of a everyday carry. People have multi-tools, so why can't your concealed gun also have multi-tool? Well, there you go. Sure, of course. Why not? Why the hell not? We could do that. Done. Absolutely done. I'm gonna put that in there. We're gonna make a gun. We're gonna make a gun. We're gonna make a pistol concealed multi-tool attachment. Done. So that's really it. Like the base Traveller rules does not have range bands like this. They essentially say your gun has a, so here it is. Your gun has a effective range. In this case, I think some guns have an effective range of 200 meters. With the caveat that if you're not sighted, if you're not using sights, then I think there's a max, and everything otherwise is extreme because you can't see anymore if you're not using a scope effectively. And if you are a quarter of that or less, then you get a +1 to hit. And we're not going to do that. We're going to have another range, and we're going to call it whatever, very close or room scale. And if you are that range or less, you are going to take a -1 with a rifle. And you're also going to take a snapshot penalty, meaning if you don't aim ahead of time, you will take a penalty. And what that means is pistols will have just a small accuracy advantage up close and personal. They will not have a snapshot penalty, and then some rifles will have less penalties based on, say, if you have a light carbine, then done. You're going to get a little bit better off. And submachine guns sort of cross that line. Their penalty for very close is actually very, very short. And otherwise, they behave closer to a pistol. So if you are blazing away in a room, a submachine gun would be what you might want to have, or a pistol, other than, say, a big old rifle. But having said that, the rifle's going to pack more of a punch, and in most engagements, the rifle is superior. That's going to be our main breakaway from Traveller that people are going to notice right away, is that we are using mapped combat, and we've effed with the guns. And we made more of them, like tons. We're gonna make a lot of stupid guns. And feel free to give me lots of gun ideas, like Nutmeg and his scissor gun attachment. his Microsoft multi-tool gun. So that's the main difference there. The other main difference, which I don't have quite as much to, I don't have anything to show, I don't have a background to show you, is frankly going to be spaceships. Weirdly enough, I don't think the new Traveller does a very good job with ships. Again, it effectively abstracts the combat into range bands, and that's fine. Perfectly fine. And streamlined and, simple for folks. And I think probably people generally like that. I'm not a giant fan of that. And so I'm going to try to go back to, I don't actually think I have anything good for this. Yeah, you're not going to look at this document. This document's a mess. I'm going to write this for real. We're going to have vectored movement like old school Traveller. So literally moving vectors, right? Thrust and so on. And it's going to be a fair... Now, we're not going to have a lot of ship combat in this campaign. Ship combat is... There's no good economics for ship combat. Like, piracy, in my opinion, would not exist in a world where you can lose millions of dollars if the enemy gets a hit on you. Piracy would be a rough haul. You would have to get most folks to surrender. And that's like piracy actually was, by the way. You really just wanted to get a reputation enough that anyone that you flew the Jolly Roger at, they would surrender. I think that's similar because, man, someone gets one lucky shot and costs you $2 million. There's no cargo that you're going to necessarily swipe from them that, necessarily means that is going to be worth it for you. So I don't think the players will be too excited to get in a space battle. And in fact, I don't think the ship has weapons on it to start. I think they will end up fitting weapons to their trader. And since I to be totally honest, I don't know what, after the first adventure or two, I have no idea what the campaign holds for them. So they might end up, then maybe they are privateers, maybe they are, right? I don't know yet. So I'm loath to say anything specific about what they're going to be doing, but we are going to have a reasonably detailed starship combat using vectored movement, like the old the old Black Book Traveller suggested, and again, we will detail out, all the moves, all the hits, and we're going to try to make it as interesting as possible. I love space operations and space combat, and I want that to be sort of as, again, even if we're not going to do a lot of it, I want that to be sort of as bitchin' as possible. Where is my starship primer? So again, to that end, we literally are, we have a fairly, we have a 9-page document written on how starships operate under, in this campaign approximately. We're not quite there yet. We got a little bit more to do. But everything from boarding and security to taking off. Now, Traveller, the book has some of this, and some of this is taken just out of what Traveller has, but then we have added to it over time and tried to make it as detailed as possible, so that things like knowing whether your ship's fusion power plant is, if you left it hot or you left it cold, right? All of that is a thing. So when the characters are running back to their ship and trying to hot start the ship in 3 minutes, we know how difficult that's going to be for them. Or when they're trying to hold off the Vesporan boarding crew, we know how difficult that is going to be. This is just distances taken out of the Traveller book. I have a whole sensor detection procedure. In Traveller, the base rules, you just roll, right? You roll your sensor ops and you can see stuff or not based on your... I get it. I totally understand that. But that's not how we're going to be. So we have a very detailed sensor operations sort of procedure, and we might as well talk about it, because that's theoretically why we're here, right? We are here to talk about all this. So here you'll see, so this is your sensor modifier based on distance. So, seeing to orbit would be a -2. Seeing to a gas giant. No, wait, where are we at here? Seeing to a nearby world, so maybe to Venus, would be a -30. Seeing out to Jupiter or some such might be a -50, and so on. To the rim of a system might be a -90 kind of concept. And so that's what we are trying to beat. We are trying to get, but that's not a modifier to your sensor roll. What we do is we posit that every ship, everything in space has a signature based on how big it is, how hot it is, how reflective it is, right? So a star, we consider it infinite. You can always see the star. That's probably what, but a gas giant might be +65 to its sensor signature, which means you can see it, right? which means you can see it somewhere here between 600 million and 900 million kilometers. Okay, good enough. Planets have their own signatures. Ships have signatures based on their size. So, for instance, your 100-ton scout ship has a signature of 2 based on its size, which means we can spot it in orbit pretty easily. That's what that means. A 2 signature for a ship means that if it's just orbiting and not doing anything else, you can usually look up and you see that little streak across the sky, right? And that with any detection apparatus, it's pretty easy to see in orbit. If you thrust, based on how much you thrust, you get then a multiplier to add to this. And so the concept being that as soon as you turn on those thrusters, you become very bright. That's the idea. How much power you're using matters. If you're using 100 units of power, for what little I know about this game, good on you for tagging it. Happy Monday. Hey, Rob, how are you? Yeah, don't get me wrong. This is, I warned you, right? This is intellectual masturbation over Traveller. So, I mean, it's not super exciting. I do get that. I appreciate any of those of you that are sticking around to sort of hang out and chat with me for a little bit while I do this. But I get it. It's sort of a wonky thing to be talking about. But so everything that you do on your ship, you can thrust. That's going to upgrade your increase your signature. Masturbation. Yay! Yeah, I'm a little sad now that I said that with my face on camera and everything. Yeah. Oh well. So yeah, ship sensors, right? If we go active sensors, if we use, instead of using PEMDAC, I even made up a cool dumbass military acronym for it. PEMDAC is Passive Electromagnetic Detection and Classification. And if you decide to instead go with radar or LiDAR, you then become a beacon. Right? If you're running your ship's transponder, your signature is higher. That whole thing. So you effectively, after all that, you generate a signature. And pretty much it comes down to the signature of your target plus your sensor strength must be greater to or equal than this number, and then you will see the target. Potentially, you'll have a chance to see the target. And I actually have, I think I have one. See? Not great. I actually wrote, where did I do? Ship. Maybe primer. And I might actually have a sample of that, which we're not going to go super over, but no. Yeah, it might be on another DAW. Yeah, that's the problem having a couple machines, is I occasionally lose something on machines, and I need to go back to using GitHub for my docs. I think we will definitely do a sample come. I don't know if we can do it tonight or not, but ship combat we cannot yet do. I can't do it yet. I'm trying to go for a feel of, so ships accelerate typically. So there's 2 ways that ships fly about. One is sublight speed. So sublight speed, you'll see typically speeds are going to be, accelerations are going to be anywhere from 1G to 6Gs. 1G is, of course, accelerating at 1 Earth's gravity, 9.8 meters per second squared. 6Gs is 6 times faster acceleration than that. 6Gs is pretty darn fast and pretty darn bright. And you can even see at 1G acceleration, and this includes you flying out halfway, turning around, and flying back, decelerating the entire way, getting to, say, somewhere like a Jupiter would take a slow ship, a 1G acceleration ship, 88.7 hours. A 4G ship would take half that time. And you can see here, extrapolating times for faster drives. It's pretty much the square root of the G rating of the slower than light drive. So let's say you took off from Earth and you were jetting out to Jupiter to refuel in the gas giant's hydrogen atmosphere. We would estimate that it would take you approximately 90 hours to get there and be in orbit in Jupiter. Now, a lot of it could be different based on where those, but we're just roughing it, right? To get to orbit at 1G, not too long, 2,000 seconds. To get to a place like Mars, maybe, or Venus, or what, it's about 37 hours at 1G. Now, that is slower than light. Faster than light is a whole different story. So faster than light travel, and we're using, of course, the weird, the fantasy faster than light drive kind of thing, right? We are doing, so the discovery made was that certain tantalum isotopes can be, if you build coils of tantalum 180M, which I forget where the M comes from, but it is a stable isotope of tantalum. Like the half-life is like thousands and thousands of years. Coils of tantalum 180M with certain energy, right, resonating energy or whatever, effectively have the capability of capturing particles out of T-space. And T-space is essentially another dimension of space that is super curved. So if this is our space and it has this kind of curvature, T-space is this tiny thing and it has a very, very tight curvature. But every point in T-space has a corresponding point in real space. The side effect of that is if you can happen to get from T-space to real space and transfer your velocity, your real space velocity in T-space, you cover this amazingly large arc in real space. So you don't have to travel faster than light. You just have to travel really fast, slower than light in tau space. And you end up going faster than light. When you transit back into real space, you will have traveled way, way faster than what you should have traveled. You can't get a shot for that. So the idea is that you essentially have these tantalum 180 coils. Scott's going to enter T-space with his beard. He definitely drinks the beers at warp speed. And then these ships' hulls are built with a web of tantalum 180 sort of embedded in the hull structure. So what happens is we pump this thing full of energy. We flicker it on and off. It captures these particles. We then push them out onto the web that surrounds the ship, change that resonant frequency, and now you have a cocoon of tachyons, effectively, which drag the ship into T-space, impart on it a tau velocity that gives it a faster than light velocity in real space. It's all garbage. It's all, Can they hear you scream in T-space? They cannot, actually. You are effectively surrounded in this bubble that you cannot see past for all intents and purposes, right? Because you are enshrouded in these tau particles And so you are in your own bubble universe for all intents and purposes. So they cannot hear you screaming T-Space unless they are in the same bubble as you. So yeah, so you transit into T-Space, travel some slower than light tau velocity, which is a faster than light real velocity, and then you detransit into real space. The ship, and there you go. The ship is cut off from the normal universe. Anything exiting the ship's bubble is ejected into real space, ripped into its fundamental particles by the transition. And the only safe transition is to somehow, right, change the drive resonance and flicker back into real space in a controlled fashion. And this, for the most part, is it's not easy to do, but it has become old hat for, for engineers and ship pilots of this universe. It's pretty easy to get, but it does take time to plot a course, because the theoretical idea is that, right, the sort of, let's see, did I close? I presume it closed again. I seem to have done that over and over and closed roll 20 again. So, silly me. So there's a couple sort of weird effects of. There's a couple weird effects of this this drive. The first thing is roll 20 napping again. No, that's me. I keep closing it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. Let's make a new page. We'll just make a plain old new page. I don't care what's on it. There we go. So one thing is that it's fairly inaccurate. It's also, can I draw freehand? There you go. Right, so here's real space. Here's T-space. You have a one-to-one mapping, and so traveling this distance in real space, T-space gives you, a fairly large distance. And this is slower than light, technically. But as you can see, there's a big sort of corresponding potential jitter, right? If your position is off by even the slightest amount getting here to here, then that could be a really big inaccuracy in where you detransit into real space. Crazy schizos to draw hollow Earth maps. It is a hollow Earth universe, right? So, but yes. So, there's a couple sort of weird. First off, is that gravity wells sort of do this to the space. Right? They deform the space. And what that means is, right, what that means is that this calculation, so if I want to enter real T-space here, it's a fairly easy calculation to get the correct velocity to get to where I'm going. Unfortunately, my real space and T-space are pretty flat. I drew them pretty flat, and now I can't draw a straight line. Save my life. But if you do it here in a gravity well, then that calculation becomes really hard to make work. And so that gives us the typical traveler, the trope that you have to be either 10 diameters for a risky jump or 100 diameters away from any gravity well to get a safe jump. The idea would be is that 100 diameters out, you have fairly flat space. Oh, wow. Right? You have fairly flat space here, but if I have a big old gas giant here, that thing is really bending space, and T space bends up to meet it because, again, every corresponding point here has a spot here. And getting your T space, getting your tau velocity correct as you fall in from here is way harder than getting it correct as you fall in from this flat area. So the idea is you want to be far away from gravity, you want to be far away from energy signatures, and you want to make your jump there, because this leads to hitting the wrong, you detransit and you're like, I thought we were going there. Nope, we ended up, 10 light years away over here. Bad news. We're in deep space. We don't even know where we ended up. The other thing is that there is a slight jitter even just normally. And so it makes offensive fleet operations very difficult in this universe, because you send 50 ships, some of them end up where you explicitly want them to. Some of them might end up a couple million kilometers away. Some of them are a couple million, maybe a couple million kilometers. It could be. Some of them might end up, right? And so what might happen is the defensive fleet, if the offensive fleet does not have time to gather itself and discern sort of their disposition and get themselves into a fighting state, then they can be defeated in detail by a defensive fleet that has sort of that is alerted to their presence. How's that? So it is very risky to conduct an operation where you send an entire fleet to the 100 diameter safe jump point and hope to make a surprise attack. That is potential. It's possible, but it is also very dangerous, because if half your fleet ends up a billion meters away, days away from the battle, you might find yourself with half your fleet, that kind of thing. So those are sort of it doesn't, is it ever going to matter in the campaign? Nope, never matter. It does matter in the sense that when we do detransit, we do have to make a roll based on our astrogation to determine how well we did. And that's going to determine whether we end up exactly where we wanted to, or billions of kilometers away from where we wanted to, potentially days away. How came up with this game? Bus driver. Who came up with this game? So that's sort of where we're at. And we have a whole bunch of little things, right? You can buy Atlas information to right. You can buy Atlas information to make that. You can pre-plot a jump potentially. You can, like, there's any number of things that we could do. Some of this will come into play when we make the attempt to escape Vesper, just because it will sort of matter. It will matter a little bit if we're being very bright, right? If we're flying jets, right, thrusters at full, we're going to be very bright and be seen by the Vesporan Navy potentially. We will have to plot a jump that could take up to an hour, right? We'll have to enter jump space. That'll take potentially an hour. And we're going to need to make sure that we are far enough away from everyone that we can make that jump safely and not be scanned by the enemy and not be found, that kind of thing. So there's going to be a lot of that sort of cat and mouse, and maybe it won't even become that, it won't be that apparent, because it might just be 2 or 3 skill rolls, but so we'll see. We'll see how that goes, if that plays into any thoughts or any clever space technobabble to help us escape. So yeah, we're gonna have a lot of sort of different ship operations rules, more detailed, I think, than we will have necessarily in base Traveller, and we will probably have slightly more complicated ship combat rules. So again, if you don't know Traveller, you can. So you can, let's see. You can certainly do that. Some ships are going to have, where's my primer document? Some ships will have ECMs. There are ways to make drones appear like a ship, for instance. We definitely will run probably as silent as possible, quote unquote. It's not really silent, it's run dark, right? Which means using as little power as possible and as little thrust as possible as we try to escape. Our ship probably does not have a full ECM suite installed, and that will be something which we'll have to consider as we go. Do you get better sensor suite that also contains an ECM suite, or do you buy an ECM suite? We'll run with a transponder off, so we will run dark, probably. And we'll have to, and we probably don't have a good stealth system. So, for instance, one thing that you do have to do, which would be a killer in space, is heat, right? Everything you do is generating heat. And since there is no atmosphere in space, the only way to get rid of that heat is to radiate it out into space, right? IT space, the third beer. As you radiate that heat out, you're a little mini star there, a little mini heat source that's going to be detected. So stealth means generating as little heat as possible, or keeping it inside the ship. We don't have that apparatus. What you would probably do is you'd probably push it into a heat sink of some sort, something that could actually absorb all that heat energy. But you can't let it get too hot. But that only lasts you X amount of time, because once that thing gets too hot, it starts warming up the rest of the ship anyway. So you probably pump all of that into a heat sink and then look for a good time to eject that heat sink. Drinkula. You know what? You might have just named Scott. And this ship is probably just a trader. Like, they have no way of knowing that they were going to end up in this mess. So they don't have all that extra crap that would make them good blockade runners, right? But yes, you could build a stealth ship that has sort of anti-reflective coating, that has retractable radiators, that has some heatsink apparatus. So you would take it and you'd pump all the heat into the heatsink for 6 hours, and then, once you're behind the gas giant, eject the heatsink into the gas giant's atmosphere, that kind of thing, right? And that's how you would sort of maintain stealth. Now, our ship, to be honest, will be small, probably 100, 200 tons, maybe. We might be able to run at 1 or 2 Gs to get out of Dodge, or maybe even 1 G, or maybe even less than 1 G, which will keep our signature generally low. And we will probably use as little power as possible, and that will help us not be detected. Once we get out of Dodge, out of Vesper, and go to, then we'll probably make some decisions as to what the next part of the game is. And if we are going back to Vesper, we would either need papers, some forged papers. Maybe we get something from Three Sisters, which, indicates that the ship is under the Three Sisters flag, which would make it probably no bueno to press into service. Something like that. That's probably what's going to happen. Probably we try to go to one of these other nearby nation states, maybe Callus, maybe Three Sisters, and get some kind of official documents which say, hey, these guys work for us, don't dick with them. I don't know that we'll start with a weapon. Now, so these ships aren't, you can't press me. Do you know my Uncle Mal? They should, I might have missed a good opportunity, not started there. Yeah, getting that first weapon might be one of the, like, that might be like the second adventure or third, right? You know what I mean? Like, once they get out of Vesper and go, this is nuts. We've got to protect ourselves. That's when, because that's going to be expensive. So they don't want to buy that. They'll have to do some kind of service, is my guess. Now, these ship templates are not quite up to date anymore, to be quite honest with you, because I changed up some of the ship components documents a little bit. So here is the, or salvage, right? Oh, that's true too. That is true too. We can go over, I mean, rip and stripping everything you find, 100%. All right, time out. We're gonna take another break. I'm gonna hit the restroom and get a little. I'm gonna get my second drink, Count Drinkula, and then we can go over some ships and food. Maybe we pick one for them, keeping in mind that they're gonna have to pay it off still. So we should be a little bit careful at breaking the bank. And I do think I have a ship component somewhere. Why not have a Starship Components document that I was just working on? I have the region briefing. I thought for sure. I was just literally doing this. Man, I'm a little bit of a mess actually with my documents. There we go. So yeah, so we're also, so the other thing is, much like guns, I want my ship components to be super detailed, like to a dumb degree. So whereas they just have, oh, beam laser, pulse laser, we're gonna have, again, we're gonna have brand names that have sort of signatures, essentially, like, right, not signature, but they mean something, right? Kintech might make, the best kinetic weapons, that kind of crap, right? And we're going to be fairly detailed. Now, having said that, this is thousands of credits, so that's 10 million bucks to buy a heavy lance. So they're not going to want to do that. These are expensive toys, so they're going to want to get something somehow. Even the turret costs about $1 million. So, and I want my giant map in the middle of my table to be about 1 light second across. So we made, that's the scale. that's the scale that we're using, essentially. Find the mini bar. We're doing that. Blue milk, but it expires in 3 sol days. All right. I'm gonna go get a drink. I'll be back. I'm gonna hit the restroom. Stay put. Yeah. All right, I'm back. You look, I'm not averse to doing this, to doing a sci-fi game again. I think, like I said, I do think we would need to cultivate it a little better than we did last time. So let's talk. The original game that we played at the table didn't last. It lasted a few weeks only, and it failed for two reasons. One, I think neither Scott and I loved Traveller as much as we thought perhaps we were gonna. And so I do think that harmed us a tiny bit. Now I have the taskbar up permanently and I can't freaking get rid of it. So yay, Windows. Traveller blows. So the other reason though is I do think, to be honest, I do think truly there's a little bit of a ship management mini game which certain campaigns beg for, and the people that were running the ship in the campaign, because they rolled all their characters randomly, which you do in Traveller, and the people that ended up with the means to have the ship also were the people that weren't going to show up all the time and didn't want to actually make decisions about the ship. And so it just felt a little bit forced. And don't get me wrong, it led to this most recent fantasy campaign, which I think has been just very, very good. So I don't hate the fact that we switched. I would like to do a sci-fi game, largely for your wife, Scott, because that was her inaugural campaign, was a science fiction campaign, and we really haven't run it again since, really science fiction to any real degree. Since college. So we're talking 20 plus 30 years. It's been sort of 3 decades since we actually had a long running science fiction campaign. So I do think maybe it is time. Maybe we do take this opportunity and try to get back into this. We'll talk about that. But that's why this thing failed, I think, originally, was simply the fact that, because I like all that shit. I like the minutia of, say, starship captaining. I like the fact that you come in system, you don't know exactly where you are, so you have your navigator scan around, right, to determine where you actually detransited to. You have your sensor operator quietly look for other contacts in system, right? You know, maybe he finds one. Oh, there's a 200-ton ship jetting, around the vicinity of V8, the 8th planet. Trying to get a read on, right, that little sensor blip, and he's trying to, then he makes his sensor roll to go, oh, what kind of ship is that, or that kind of thing, right? I love all that. I love that little, just minutia going, it's going to take you 80 hours to get where you want to go, or you can go full out burn and let everybody in the system see you and blah, 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 right? That whole thing. I love all that. But I also love when it's a little bit exacting. I don't love just going, it takes you a day and we'll roll an encounter. I love to go, no, it's going to take you this long. Unless you use navigation to slingshot your way around a planet. That kind of, like, I love specificity a little bit in sci-fi, which I know not a lot of people necessarily do. So, anyway, let's talk about ships a little bit more. And so I have a list of ships. Now, these are just sort of basics. And again, some of these costs and cargo will slightly change based on some slight tweaks to the component list that I'm just making right now. But the Scout would be sort of the canonical, traditional first ship, right? I don't. I'm looking. I'm looking at my desktop to see if there's anything embarrassing on here. Do I have? No. Okay. The most embarrassing thing is Pal World, maybe. But y'all know I played Pal World. I played it unstreamed for how long? This thing's not super fast, but it's reasonable. Has reasonable agility. Totally average FTL drive. 60 days of flight time, so that's good. Actually, that's high, very high. Needs the minimum crew is actually one. You could run this thing with one guy, but it is a crew of four and really only houses four people. It has 2 double staterooms. Nah, cap cut for your TikToks. Oh, CapCut. Yeah, absolutely. What was I using? I was using CapCut to. Oh, because I think I had to string something. I had to string a vid together because it cut out or whatever. That's all. So yeah, probe drones. You got an air raft in there, docking space. Like it's a fairly. The nice thing is these military sensors are actually a big deal. Although this changes because I did make this more expensive to get. So they might have. Let me actually look while we're here. While we're here, let's look at these suites. So it might actually have a patrol suite instead of a military suite. That strength would only be 15. It takes 4 power, so we've upped the power cost. Tonnage is 6, which sort of sucks for this guy. Cost 10 mil instead. So this goes up by 2, bringing it to 40. This goes up by 2, I believe. Bringing this down to 10.5. And there you go. But yeah, that'd be a tiny ship. Those 100-ton ships are tiny, no doubt about it. Then you could buy you could have a trader. And even that is slightly different. Trader's friend, strength 10, power 2, tonnage 4. I don't know why I changed shit. That's dumb. But anyway. But yeah, so we could give them any one of these. We could make another ship that they purchased. You probably wouldn't. The problem is I probably would not. And this has to change. The lasers have all changed too. But that's a different story. You probably don't want to give them a big old ship with a $80 million price tag. That's simply going to be so much for them. So we need to get them something. The Junie class is garbage, by the way. And I don't want to give them garbage either, if that makes it. But 108 tons of cargo capacity could literally mean they play the game as space traders. Prospector class is actually reasonable, but expensive still. So we have to find them a ship. I have to get them a ship. I have to get them a ship. So it's a good question. Like, do you want fast? How much expense are we willing to take? Like, I would love to get a cheapo ship. But like this Empress Morava class is slow and ungainly. That's what Agility 2 is going to mean. Its FTL is weirdly fast. And I love shit like this. I love stupid things. Yeah, that ship is the one ship with a faster FTL drive and a good sensor suite. Like they actually have ECM. The trader's friend comes with an ECM package because they assume you're going to get jumped by pirates. So I should actually put that down. ECM, right? That's key. These guys also have ECM. I don't know, stuff like that. I mean, I nerd out over shit like this. Like this is my jam. Like writing these is the joy, to a large degree. Morava's cargo is it actually is. I mean, it's 35 tons, which is you're absolutely correct. It's garbage. But you could totally have 10 passengers every trip. You could be taking passengers. I think it's gig a little bit. But I agree with you. The cargo space is garbage. Having said that, the only reason the Eleftheria has the big, oh, we need a steward. We would need a steward. I think, do we have anyone with steward 0? Oh, shit. Do I need to buy a freaking steward? God damn, I do not have steward 0. I don't have any steward at all. That blows. Okay. Well, we're not taking passengers. You know what? Scout ship it is, boys. 10 tons of cargo. Good luck. Do what you do. Your crew is stressed. They are bad, by the way. They're not a good. It's not a well put together crew. I did add the Traveller package, so they do have they can fly any ship, and they could fight in a ship, and they can do scanners and blah blah blah. They can do the whole shebang, but they're not great at it. I absolutely agree with that. The patrol sloop is out. It's 81 million bucks. We're not going to put them 81 million. And I don't actually love the Princess Emily. The refurbished yacht is garbage. The super cheap trader works, but literally only if this is what you're doing. If you want to pound cargo, that would be the ship. That would definitely be the ship. But man, it is such a trash ship for anything else. Thrust 1, Agility 2 is, I mean, it is a chunker. It's clunking its way. Shit sensors. I mean, it is a garbage vessel. And I mean that in many, many ways. So I don't think I would stick them with this one either. I think it largely depends on whether you are... It's slow FTL. The FTL is really slow. Yeah, that is a bad FTL drive. 0.75 means 0.75 light years per day. Please no Firefly. The cheap trader has a poor jump range. It does. Jump range 8 is not great. The problem with 100-ton ships is simply there's not really any good way to... You can't squeeze out much more. You can't squeeze out much more from them. Who is setting the campaign? What does that mean, Rob? Aside from me. I mean, I'm setting the campaign. What? I don't know. Like, this is for the solo game. Scott wants to play sci-fi again, and I think our fantasy campaign, I'm ready to take... I'm ready to sort of can it for a break or two, but not right away, but soon, maybe in a month or, something, a couple months or something. And so we do have to decide on what the next campaign is. Maybe it's this, who knows? Maybe that's what I'm doing. I'm preparing for the real table campaign. So I'll have everything ready to go. Sci-fi. But I love this. Like these, is it going to be random or do you pick? Jesus, take the win. Like, I love this. Like, these damn, these little ship vignettes here. Oh, I love them. I love them so much. Yeah, so Scott's choices are a sci-fi game or Sword Sphere. And Sword Sphere is a campaign that is effectively junior high school students playing a virtual reality MMO. That they learn it has some sinister undertone. So it's effectively a horror campaign. So there you go. I mean, we should we should build them another ship, don't you think? I don't know if we can, but we should consider. Yeah, so the only problem with 100 tons, the 100 ton is nice and small, and if you don't buy all this extra, like the reason the Scout is so expensive, you notice it's 40 million, which is rough, right? 40 million is actually quite a bit for a ship that small. The reason it's so expensive is it's armored. It has frickin' military hardware sensors, right? It is, and it has everything about it is good, and it's like a mini military ship. So it's 40,000. You might be able to build a 100 ton ship, but that is tiny. So I tell you, you know what, we're all right. You know what we're doing? What else are we doing tonight? Right? Okay, so here you go. Scout ship has a harder time making money. You have to be an adventurer. Like, you have to do the deed, right? Now we can extrapolate and make a 150-ton ship or something like that, but yeah, like you are. So there we go. So this is all. So the first thing is literally to pick a size. So here are the sizes down the side. We have 100, we have a 200, 150 would be 45 hit points. You absolutely could do that, right? Well, I call everything of that size a sloop. Because the tiny sort of civilian-y ships, I sort of call them sloops. That's a dumb name, but I think it works for us. So we got a choice: 100, 200, or do we just go 100 in between and garbage it and 100 and do like 150 and try to keep that 50 tons reasonably free of crap? So you want to do a 150? What do you think? And it'll be the only 150 here. Like, it'll be some weird, it'll be some weird, one-off hull that had a super short run in the Imperium. So we're gonna do 150 tons. We need a name for the class. So the class type S is not great. We could call it a type whatever. The Badger. Oh, yeah. You know what? Yeah. Well, the Badger can be the name that we'll do. Type B. Let's see. Scout, right? Type B Scout Carrier. So it'll be a Type B Scout Carrier, and we can name it the Badger. So the hull. So what do we got to do here? We got to do 150. We're going to streamline it. Armor 2 is the default, so I think we're going to stick with that, and we'll give it 45 hit points for now. Right? Done. Perfect. So what does that mean? And I haven't done this in a long time, so you have to bear with me. So the armor doesn't make anything worse. we can try to put a weapon on there. That's fine. We could, you know what? We could put a weapon on there because it has 150 tons. So we'll try it with and without. How's that? Do we want to give the hull any modifiers? So it has 45 hit points. We could up that by 20% by making it rugged, but that's going to cost more money effectively. Why you hate adventure? That's funny. I don't think we're. So here's what I say. If we want to keep the cost down, let's keep it the 2 armor. We'll keep the 2 armor, right? The basic armor. We won't up it. The scout has 4 armor, which ups the cost. And then the only decision where do you want to make the rugged or not? Let's say no for now. And every ton of hull at base costs 50,000 credits. So 50 times 150, oops, is 7,500. I love space westerns, by the way. I do not consider any of that bad. Like, I think space western is almost. First off, let's understand something, Rob. Firefly is effectively a Traveller campaign. Done. If you. I hate to say that Firefly is probably the closest analog to this campaign that you're going to find, because that is probably about what the campaign is going to feel like. Firefly, I guarantee you, was someone's Traveller campaign. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. It feels so much like freaking Traveller that we played in junior high and high school. Sorry, man. So I don't know how much power this takes at this moment, but it costs $7,500. Done. Let's look at the STL drive while we are here. My guess is, how much power does it take? Do we know? Yeah, so there you go. General ops is 1 power per 10 tons. So it's gonna cost us 15 power. So we'll keep that in mind. We'll write that down. STL drive. How fast, guys? Keep in mind that 2 is okay, and that's what the other scout had is 2. Do you want this to be, and as you go faster, 7? That would be 25. You would eat so much of that. You would eat so much of that tonnage. Oh my God, it'd be ridiculous. You would eat so much tonnage. Oh God. The other scout had a 2 and agility 3. Let's go thrust 2, agility 4. What does agility cost us? Agility ups that by 10%. Effect. Well, the size multiplier by 10. 2-3 would be standard. 2-4 would be. That's true. I do like the idea that it is. That's interesting. So, okay, that's a good point, Nutmeg. Do we want. So here's the goofy thing. Do we want. So keeping in mind, Do we want the STL drive to be the thing that's the weird bitchin' prototype? No, I don't think capacity is cool for a scout. The fact that I think capacity is a side effect. It's not going to have like trading capacity. You're not going to have like 90, but you might have 30 tons or 20 tons. Let's see what it looks like at thrust 4 for giggles and agility 3. Let's just see. Let's see what that looks like. Thrust 4 is 17.5%. Agility 3 does not modify that. So thrust 4, let's get our calculator back out. So we have 150 tons times 0.175. What tech? 12. Everything's tech level 12. 26.25 tons. I won't worry about fuel just yet. I won't worry about power yet either. That's going to cost, STL drive is 150 kilocredits per. So 150 times 26.25. About 4,000. 3937.5. 39. I'm unfortunately going to round up. 38. So it is fast. Done. But not as fuel efficient as the normal Scout. And yeah, you could have gotten away with, keep that in mind, a thrust 2 is 10%. So you burned like 11 tons here. So we'll see how that goes. I think the FTL drive is going to look fairly standard. Well, so here's the thing. There's not that much. Honestly, there isn't that much. So you sort of can't go farther than 9, Rob. So 9 is sort of standard. So here's the thing. So what they found out, and don't ask how they found this out, by the way. As you travel through T-space, your tantalum drive collects what they call rho particles. And the rho particles are essentially, they're effectively some, they're essentially a side effect of this real matter traveling through this imaginary space. The amount of particles that collect in your drive is directly proportional to the distance traveled. And at about 9.2 light years, the amount of particles that collect inside the tantalum 180M nucleus cause it to decompose into all kinds of shit, but mostly gamma rays. So it kills everyone on board and fries all the circuitry. So right now, without a huge a change in jump drive standards, now they went from 7 to 8 to 9 over the years by changing the coils. So wait, I have that somewhere. Give me a second. In my primer, my Starship primer, here you go. Bleeding and the 9.2 light year limit. So while traveling through T-space, tau drives collect rho particles. Rho are a real space shadow of tau particles used to create warp bubble that propels the ship to T-space. Blah, blah, blah. Rho particles are dangerous because they embed themselves in the T180M nucleus. Below a critical threshold, no effect. But once the threshold's reached, boom, everything goes away. You fry the ship's electronics, everyone's dead, blah, blah, blah. The Rho drive remains in the residue in the drive for years. Because it's estimated the half-life. So I don't know what the half-life of TA180M is, but it's actually very high. Like I looked it up. Same residue. but that can be bled into a gravity well. And so we sort of use that. Now, mind you, I changed all these numbers, so I do have that on a document that I will get to this machine. But the idea is that when you make a jump, no, you can't. So here's the very clever. No, I already thought of that, Rob. You can't do that. Can't do it. The problem is with the tantalum 180 nucleus itself. So even if you have a drive that's not set up, for instance, it still collects the rho particles and still kills you. Now, I did not make this up. This is actually, I got that part from 2300 AD, which is a version of Traveller that they made way, way back. And that was sort of the limit. And so there's all kinds of ways that they tried to get around it. And that was one of the ways they get around it. So I'm going to actually keep the 9 light year limit. And I'll tell you why. And this is actually dumb practical, because the 9 light year limit makes the map more fun. And if you can break it, the map is less fun. And frankly, breaking that 9 light year limit doesn't help the characters much. Like having a thrust 4 is sort of way more useful to them than being able to go 10 light years. I mean, I'm 50-50 on it. How's that? You know what? Let's look at the map. Hold on. Let's just look at the map. I'll tell you what. Here's the part. They also, how'd they get this damn ship then? That's the other thing. You can't do it. You can't. No, that's what I just said. You can't do it. If your secondary drive that you carry still picks up the particles. They found that out, by the way. That's how they found that out. They made the jump with a second drive absolutely in the hold, and it still was ready to nuke them and kill them all. So yes, that has been actually one of the thought processes that the Imperial scientists have gone down. Another one, by the way, is looking for brown dwarves. So they're looking for stars that are burned out and thus not bright at all, but still produce a gravity well that can bleed the drives. So you have to bleed these drives into a gravity well. So they're looking out into the stars for out into deep space and going, is there right? They're looking for gravity waves to say there's a star there that's so burned out we can't see it. It does not bright at all, but it still produces enough gravity that we can bleed our drives into it. So here's the thing: if we make an FTL drive, I don't want to. No, I don't. No, I tell you, I'm not that. I don't mean to keep saying no to you, Rob. I'm so sorry. I don't want to say no to you all. I want them to have bought this ship. And the reason I want them to have bought the ship is to have that money, that continuous money pressure. Because the money pressure is no. I'm so sorry. I really am. I am so damn sorry. We're supposed to be doing improv. I'm supposed to say yes and but I'm by the way, my theater class I was shit at. Keep that in mind. The one theater class I did take, I was awful at. So no. Well, I mean, that's the question. Do you want them to have some weird bitchin' FTL drive, or do we want them to have? No, I love all that. I don't hate it. So I think that's the question. Do you want them to have I don't necessarily think this is this does not have to be a prototype in the sense that it is cutting edge technology. It can just be a prototype in that its design is non-standard, and they did a couple of them and then dropped them. Having said that, let's do one or the other, because the problem is if you make a crazy FTL drive that takes up all the space and a crazy STL drive that takes up all the space, then you have defeated the purpose of having the 150 tons, which is to give you cargo space. So you want to keep that 150. You want a little bit of normalcy on this ship. So do you want a crazy good FTL drive or a crazy good STL drive, I suppose, is the question. So let's ask that to the universe. I know Scott's vote is already STL. Scott's like, no, fuck it. Give me no STL. And I want 50 tons of cargo. I know Scott's answer. Do you want FTL? So we'll do either. I'll do either one. I'll do one. Maybe they got their hands on this ship somehow. Done. And it's a wacky FTL drive. Having said that, again, you're my gaming wife. I know you. I know you very well. Nah, I'm not there. I'm sorry. No, I'm going to say no again. I gave you a question, FTL or STL. Do we want a better faster than light or a better slower than light drive? Because we can. I do. I appreciate you guys quite a bit, by the way. I cannot express how much. You know what? I wish I had my cat spray bottle here. I would be like spraying the camera. So FTL drives, let's take a look. What do our FTL drives look like? Where is my spaceship's dock? Let's go slower. Okay, slower than light. Yeah, that's cool. I think that is a safe bet. And I think it does help the I don't even know what I did for this shitty range. We're not going to make the range bad though. But let's give it a standard FTL drive. Standard FTL is speed 1. Tough crowd that I'm sorry. I apologize. Well, I will say one of the things to keep in mind, I think the 9 light year limit is baked into the map. Keep that in mind. Now, we don't have to follow that. You could go, it's 10. But then we'd have to charge you for so this takes 15% of the space. So 22.5 tons is my guess. Make sure that we're not being a dummy. Oops, nope. 150. Again, I know Scott's vote. Scott's vote is, hey, what's up, Victor? 22.5 tons. And how much does that cost? Oh, God, that costs a god-awful amount. 400 kilocredits per ton is $9 million. So there you go. So we have spent about 49 tons of our 150, and we've spent about $20.5 million. Oh God, these poor guys are going to get spray bottle tonight. Power we're going to save for last because we need to know all the fucking shit that we've got. Crew, I don't know. Do we want them to ever be able to carry, more of that? We're going to say 40 days, just because, approximately 40 days. That's 10% of tonnage. That's 15 tons. I'm pretty sure fuel is 10%. Do we know fuel? I don't have fuel? That's ridiculous. Oh, that's a lot of money for these poor guys. Yeah, there you go, 10%. So 40 days of fuel is going to cost them about 15 tons. I don't think it has a cost necessarily. That's so much money. Oh my God. How about 8? Do you think a crew of 8, roughly? So that'll take 8 power. I know that much power. And 160,000. Computer, probably 10. Computers are cheap and small. Sensors. Oh God, probably the Imperial Patrol Suite, which is going to suck. Let's give it that. Weapons, for now, we're going to put 2 mounts on it and just sit on that. That doesn't do anything. Systems, I'm going to pretend it's about the same as, oops, not the Empress Marava. I'm going to pretend it's about the same as a Scalp for now. So we have a fuel scoop. We have a fuel processor, which can process about 20 tons of fuel a day. We have 10 probe drones. We have docking space for an air raft, right? Done. Staterooms, probably double times 4. These are military staterooms, right? You have to bunk with someone. So what does that leave? That leaves us actually pretty well. The power plant. We need a power plant. So hold the hell on. Extra dudes as cannon fodder. We might need to hire extra guys as cannon fodder. By the way. The workshop has to cost one power. It doesn't say it does in Traveller, but it has to cost 1 power. You're using heavy machinery to machine shit. Oops, that's fuel. Let's do power. So, what does the STL drive take in power? 1 power per ton. So 27 power approximately. The FTL takes 2 power per ton. So 46. Oh, 46 to run that FTL drive. Holy shit, really? I don't believe it. No, it's 1 power per ton. We have 2 power per ton here, but obviously we changed that at some point. Because that's a lot of freaking power. I don't love it. Let's say 23. This is my sister. I am more lich-like. Well, there you go. So it looks to me, so let's do a quick roundabout here. If we are running So let's get the calculator out. So if we have the hull, so if we're just running basic lights and the STL drive, let's say we're running everything at once, plus the FTL drive, which would be terrible. That's not a great idea. Plus the life support, plus the computer, plus the sensor suite. We need 80 power to run everything all at once. With no weapons. With no weapons. Standard efficiency, that is 20 tons. Let's pretend. So we're going to do 20 tons. That is going to generate 80 power. This is Traveller at its base, but the ship design is sort of this weird. Like I cheated the ship design. I made it more complicated because that's sort of what I do. So let's pretend we're using 80 power. That's going to cost 200 kilocredits per 20 tons. So 40 million bucks. 200 times 20 is 4,000. Oh, yeah, see, something's wrong there. So power per ton, we have 80 power, we have 20 tons. 20 times 200 is 4,000. So this only costs us 4 million bucks. So let's take a quick look at how much tonnage we just burned. 26.25 plus 22.5 plus 20 plus 15 plus 6 plus 2 plus 2 plus 5 plus 6 plus 16 equals 120. We minus the 150, and you have 29.25 cargo space remaining. Okay. How much does this bad boy cost? 7,500 plus 3938 plus 9,000 plus 4,000 plus 160 plus 160 plus 10,000 plus 2,000. We'll take those first two plus 1,500 next two plus 900 plus 2,000. That's not terrible. That's 41,158 total for almost 30 tons of cargo space, unfortunately. And you're running everything. You don't need that much power. You could probably drop 20 power, but then you can't run the FTL drive and the STL drive at the same time. You have to literally shut that bad boy down to you have to shut down one or the other drive if you drop 20 power. If you drop 20 power, it's not actually that much better. It does totally change your so we could do a high efficiency power. 80 divided by 5 would give us 16 tons. That's almost not worth it. You do need the power if you ever had a weapon. That's absolutely correct. You can't drop 20 power and then add a gun, because that will totally screw you, because you're going to need at least 5 or 6 power to fire that gun at any given time. And you have 2 mounts, which means you could be using like 12 or 15 power to fire that gun. With that would be what you can't do with the FTL drive. Like the FTL drive, if you're spinning up the FTL drive to escape, you would have to shut down your weapon, which is probably better than shutting down your STL drive. Like, you know, like ideally, I don't think you would do that. Thrust 4 means you can escape from a lot of fights you don't want to take. Otherwise, it's a normal scout with a bunch of extra space and a way bigger... yeah, see, this guy is fuel efficient, but shitty. And it has more armor. And only 50 power. I think life support costs nothing because the staterooms cost. Yeah. The staterooms are what uses the 16. So you probably need to sit on that power. 29 tons is not... So the problem is, as soon as you add a weapon, you're going to drop 6 tons per gun, pretty much. Well, we have the drones. We already counted for the drones. They have 10 probe drones, and they have an air raft. So they have effectively a not quite super fast speeder. That's the air raft, and the docking space is 4 tons. So they can dock the air raft in their docking space. They have 10 probe drones. So they can scout just one gun. Rob's like, give me a gun, please. Okay, you know what? Well, let's mount a gun. Let's mount a gun. Let's mount a gun. Sure, what the hell? Let's see what a gun looks like, right? So a gun looks like, so we're going to mount a turret. Let's mount a 120-degree front arc turret. Scott's cringing. By the way, I just want you to know something. Scott, can you tell him how upset you are right now? Tell him how upset you are. I want you to know how. So we got one mount, one front arc, one 120 degree. He's so mad. I'm opening a 5th beer right now. That's beautiful, by the way. That makes me, that whole exchange makes me way happier than maybe it should. Let's do... This is literally just for my, like, this is the power per average point of damage, tonnage per average point of damage, cost per average point of damage, just to see what is effective versus what. And the goal is the more damage you do, the better the gun, the slightly less efficient it should ultimately be. So the kinetic weapons are actually really efficient in that they have this shitty short range. Like they, you know, right? You can throw a slug, but man, you can't throw a slug halfway across the map. When you get chunked for 2 million, Scott's like, yep, nope, we shouldn't fight ever. That is the worst possible economic decision you can possibly make. We'll give them a Kerr Industries standard beam laser. What do you think? That is my standard across the line. Because it's relatively cheap. It's a beam, so it's accurate. And all right, so we'll give them the Kerr Industries. The turret's going to cost them 1,000 and cost them a ton. So that's 1 ton, $1,000, and this is going to cost them. Let me actually copy this. Nope, that did not do what I expected it to do. Hold on, let's I don't love that either. Nope. We'll do this. Give me a second. Give me a second. We don't need this at all. We can do front arc. That would just literally put that front arc. The power to run that is 1 plus 5, 6 power to run that turret. So we're paying 6 power to run the turret. It is a 6-ton total turret there. That drops us to 23. The cost of that thing is $6,000. That ups this to 47,000. So 47 million bucks effectively. It does 3d6 minus 3. It has decent range, actually. If you not that big of a deal. Oh, I'm terrified. That's a lot of cash. But yes, no, all good. All good. No, we're in. We're doing it. 1 mount plus 1 Kerr beam done. We have the range up there. We don't really need the cost since we already have the cost. We don't really need the tonnage. We do need the, we don't even need the power, frankly. So we can delete these 3. That's, oh, beautiful. Perfect. And we can probably actually up it back to, let's go 6. There you go. So we got 1 mount plus 1 curve beam front arc weapon. There probably are, so there are deflector screens. We could add sandcasters. We already have ECM because of the Imperial Patrol Suite sensors that we have. So we do have a little bit of, we do have a tiny bit of defense that our sensor operator can dink with them getting a lock on us. So before you can fire, you need to get a lock on us. And if you can get a lock, right, there's a whole back and forth that we can do to try to break that lock and so on and so forth. Our weapon is not a terrible, a beam laser it has a good range. And so there's a lot of guns, there's a lot of ships we will outrange. Like any kinetic weapon will is great, but their range is shitty, super shitty. So we're down to 23 tons cargo. And we made a new ship, guys. That's actually pretty cool, to be quite honest with you. And and to be honest with you, what I find is great is it's unique. That ship is it's a totally unique ship, right? Now it's similar to the Scout. It is similar to the other Scouts that we already have. But this Type B Scout, let me cut this and paste it up here by the Type S so that we can compare more specifically. There we go. Well, 23 tons is okay. I won't say it's a lot, though. I will say that. It's not a lot. The Empress Morava has, the Empress Morava only has 35 tons. But the Elefthera class has 120 tons of cargo space. That's what you want, that kind of shit. If you are going to go frickin' haul or speculative trade, you want 120 tons. That is beautiful. With this, these boys are definitely going to have to do some side work, if you know what I'm saying. Have to do a little bit of side work. So if they have 3 ship shares, I believe that's $1 million. I'm gonna look. Let me look right now at those sexy core rules, and let's see let's see how much this costs to operate this bad boy. Ship shares, $1 million. Each share is worth $1 million for the ship. They have 3 with them, so all the characters together have 3. So let's take a quick look. Let's open up Excel, because God forbid we can't play Traveller without Excel. I will agree. I do agree with you. I agree with you, Scott. Space fights are lose-lose. Like, there is no good opportunity to space fight where you go, yes, that was great, and we did a thing. You would have to one-shot kill your opponent, effectively, because otherwise they do damage to you. Now, damage might not be horrible if you can, but every spare part costs like, what, 100K or something? I have to look, but it costs for a fair bit to repair shit. So let's see what we got here. So the original cost, the cost is 47,158. Shares is minus 3,000. They're $3 million. We have 3 ship shares. So that means that's the total. So the final cost is the sum of these, right? Boom, boom. I think we multiply it by something like 2.2 and then divide it by 240. And that's how much you have to pay every month to keep this thing flying, or else they come and repossess it. Let's see. Where is that? But the good news is that does not tie up any of their other money, because we didn't account for any of their other cash. They don't have a lot of other cash though. They're sort of clunky in that respect. I'm pretty sure it's 2.2. I can't find it because this is a miserable. It's not a great rule book in terms of finding shit. Uh, I mean, they don't account. They don't have interest, so that's weird, but that's fine. Yes, absolutely. You have a space game that does not, absolutely, no, 100%. It is not incentivized to have a space battle. You do. It's not incentivized to shoot people. Like you, it's no, it's in nope. It's not Star Warsy. It is ugly. It is ugly. I will say that is a weird vibe. That if there, so it's literally that if there's no cost to a mortgage, it's a little awkward, because I know that I am let's do payment, no interest. Let's pretend. And that is equal to that divided by 240. That's still a lot of fucking money. You know what? Okay, I'm good. I'm good. That's a lot of fucking cash. $184,000 a month. It's still a lot of freaking money. So we'll go with that. The operating costs on a ship let's see, what do we got here? Aside from fuel, which we're gonna pay, 0.1% per year. 0.1%. So maintenance equals that divided by 1,000. Total monthly cost equals sum. Ooh, 231. Oh, that's ugly. Yeah, is this a spacecraft or a house in California? That's funny. That's funny. They do need that's a rough cost. I will say that's a rough price. That's a rough price. 231K is non-trivial. Now, let's see. Let's look at I mean, the Prospector was 48. So, I mean, you guys were stuck with that as well. Now, mind you, that's per year. So let's do this. Multiply it by 12. So it's 12,000. There you go. That's a little bit better. 187. 188K. So, you got to make some cash. So you're going to have to take some shitty missions. Now, let's take the Junie class tramp freighter as a for instance. Prospector had 3 times the cargo. You're absolutely correct. 24,025. Say the difference is about $100,000 a month. This is a house in California. Well, they're paying it to Galbank. Let's understand something. Oh, hold on. Oh, Excel. Yes, you're right. The Prospector did have. Well, then you give me incentive to shoot you out of the sky. I mean, that's just absolutely gay. Well, I mean, you know, it is what it is. It is Traveller's a weird sort of game. Let's understand something. It has a lot of that. If you are here's the idea to the game, right? You have a ship, you were financing the ship. Now that's not every campaign. But again, the standard Firefly, the standard Traveller campaign is you need to make X amount of money. How are you going to do that? You do that by doing crazy shit? Do you do that by getting someone to pay for you? Do you do that by piracy? Do you do that by cargo? Do you do that by skipping your payments and thus being hunted? Like that's just sort of how it all goes, right? So yeah, that's a very expensive ship to have. And part of that is just the funny part is the maneuver drive, which is the weird, like the clunky thing, is actually not that big a deal. Uh, Although I will say, why is this one so much more expensive than that one? Yeah, I need to recalculate that. Something went wrong there. So the STL drive is 150 times 0.175, 26.25 times 150 equals relatively cheap somehow. I don't quite get where we're it's the cheapest. I'll have to look. I'll do. I need to check that with other documents and make sure that I did not change something wacky. But yeah. So in any case, well, I mean, yeah, it is a. I don't know how to explain it. Right. It looks like. Let's do this. Let's do 4475 divided by 17.9, and we'll get a number. 250. I think that was a change that was made. So let's do that again. That's going to up our cost a little bit, which sucks. 7,200 divided by 28.8, 250. That's the difference. Yeah, we did make a change and did not account for it. 26.25 times 250. It's not 150, it's 250. That ups the drive cost to this. Let's recalculate. Okay, none of that makes sense. Okay, let's figure out our costs. I'm sorry about that. 7,500 plus 6563, because that is the drive cost. 9,000. I was going to say that fast drive can't be that cheap. 320. That's the 2. 10,000. 6,000. 3,250. 250. 900. 2,000. 49,783. Copy that, put that into the magical Excel spreadsheet, and you get about 200,000 credits a month to run that ship if you borrowed it. Or if you bought that ship on Is what it is. Depends. It depends. It depends on cargo, right? It depends greatly on your cargo, what you carry. You could, I mean, you could be out there, right? I mean, so largely what you are making an agreement with the game master. That's almost every of the. You are literally going to the game master. Can we make this much a month? And the game master's like, sure. You're going to take these contracts. So what this group probably ends up doing is they probably end up, taking really dicey contracts from, from dicey folks and getting that 100,000, they're probably carrying cargo from place to place or speculating, even beyond that. They probably speculate on cargo. They probably buy stuff and sell it, buy low, sell high. And in the meantime, they take on more dangerous shit for various governments or various patrons to make up that money. The difficulty would be, frankly, the difficulty is going to be the times when you just can't make money because you are escaping a horrible, horrible government who wants to collect your ship, right? So here's probably what I end up doing for this ship. I don't know either, to be honest. Speculative trade with 23 cargo is probably not that worth it. Ultimately, like you would have to make, if you have 23 tons, even if you made $50,000 per ton, you would only be, well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. So if you make, 200 divided by 23 tons, you need to make about $8,700 a cargo ton per month. So you would have to be continuously flying, buying and selling, trying to make that 8,700, which you probably could. You probably could make that. But no one's eating if you're just making that. So you need to make a little bit more than that, right? So that's fine. We will work this. That ship is canon now. And we are going to and you could take the gun off and it's only 6,000 less, so it's actually not that much less, strangely enough. So keep that in mind. You could cut here and there. But I think that's about the ship. I think that's fine. It's super clunky in that it's going to cost our heroes a little bit to run that ship. No, this is just a Word doc, Rob. No, you can't filter your price. This is a Word doc. There's nothing to this. So it's about a 50 million credit ship. How'd they get their hands on it? Not sure. So we'll figure out the actual monthly cost here to them, sort of figure out what needs to happen for them to fly this bad boy around. And, we'll work that. It's not a set in stone that we need to worry about, I do want to worry about the money a little bit. No. Nope, I agree. I think 50,000 is correct. No, this is not outrageous. It's just hard to pay off. How's that? Like, right? The normally, so here's the thing. You would get one of these, the scouts would loan one to you because you were in the service for X amount of time. The problem is not that this is too much for the ship. It's just that making this kind of money with this cargo is not easy. Scout ships aren't made to do cargo runs. They're made to survey and explore and so on. And unless someone's paying you to do that, this becomes hard to run a tramp freighter on. So I think that's the difference. Whereas this guy, I mean, this one sucks too, by the way. The Empress Morava is not a good, is in some ways a bad ship, to be honest. But it's very, what do you want to say? It's very passenger based. Maybe. But keep in mind, there's no giant imperial government to give them these top secret missions. They're going to have to make good with one of these local governments. The Elefthera class is also super expensive, right? 53 million credits, 54. But it has 6 times the cargo. So you can carry a lot more. So your load per cargo space is very, very, very much less. Your monetary load. So that's I think what, and this guy's meant to shoot dudes. So it doesn't have much cargo space at all, and it costs a lot of cash. So having said that, yeah, stuff like that, that's what you have to do. You have to get, well, keep in mind, you don't have a ton of ability to do. Now, you can, actually. You can have up to 4 passengers on this, but you do need a steward. Scott's right. You need a steward to have passengers. We don't have a steward. Junie and make bang. Yes. Yes, take your shit ship with 100 tons. It goes nowhere fast, and make your money, and then go buy another ship. That's actually the weird flex. Like, I bet you these things are all over the goddamn place. Yeah, the Junie is a dumb, awful fucking ship. Like, you would get just shot out of space all day, but super cheap. 100 tons of cargo, and you're just making cash. Like, you're just raking cash in until you get destroyed. Absolutely 100%. The Prospector, sort of a weird compromise with the Scout and the Junie. You have 60 cargo tons. You have a thrust 3. Slow jump drive. Slow jump drive, but I need to go through all these calculations again, just offhand, because it's, yeah, the 200 tons makes this more expensive by a fair bit. But anyway, Badger class, yeah, the Type B, we got the Badger. It's not a sloop, it's a scout carrier. Made for in-system operations, right? So, like, it's not super fast. Princess Emily. I don't know. I don't know, but she's a yacht. She's got a yacht. Fast, super fast. Thrust 4 is really good. Thrust 4 is very good, actually. I think it's might be one of the fastest ships on this list. Yeah, it's one of the fastest ships on the list. I mean, I think your first would be to outrun most things. Prospector's a very good ship, actually. You would detect them first and outrun them. The fact that this ship has a weapon on it makes it very, very, what do you want to say? A very interesting target for the Vesporan government. No, it's all good, Rob. We're good. We're going with this. This is canon right now. I don't know who Princess Emily is, but she has a ship, and it's fast. She's got the fast jump drive, 1.1. But a little bit of a hog, all her systems. Got a little dance floor, common area, a docking bay for like a pleasure, like a pinnace or a small boat for people to go sightseeing. Shit cargo, better if you're doing passengers. Rich passengers, by the way. But yes, the Junie ends up winning, I think, the how do I make money in Traveller without shooting anyone? It's get yourself a shitty, slow freighter and just haul goods. But, you know, can you make that work? And the answer is, you know, is the Type B a better ship for the environment it's going to find itself in, which is that crazy, chaotic, deadly environment? Maybe we'll see. That's going to be the ship that they're going to have, and that's going to be the ship they're going to have to figure out how to finance. Once Galbank catches up to them, of course. Well, there you go. That's cool. We did it. We did it, team. We made a ship. We did not do a fake combat. We did not combat up yet. I will say that. Start a GoFundMe. So I think we have a ship ready. And so I think so like I said, I think our very first episode is going to be these guys I think the very first episode of this is going to be that these guys are Uncle Malcolm. These guys are down to their last bit of money, right? And they are trying to buy something that's going to make them some cash. So they're going to buy some kind of... So keep in mind, Vesper, on one side of Vesper, there is a desert, and a couple Imperial ships went down here. Now, those ships wreaked havoc on the local area and, you know, maybe made some stuff radioactive, maybe not, who knows. But you have these scavengers who are going and stripping these ships of bit, right? And that's what they're buying. The group thinks they're buying maybe some electronics from these Imperial wrecks that these scavengers have gotten. And that's what they're going to try to get, because they figure, well, if we can buy them here for cheap, which is what they're going to be, and we can sell them for 2 or 3 times as much, we can easily make payments, right? We can make some cash. But that deal's going to go bad, and that's where the combat's going to be. That's where your first fight is going to be. So I think that'll be our next sort of. So this session 0 gave us the groundwork. Our next session will be effectively session 1, and it will be the start of that gunfight. Our 4 characters against the scavvers. The scavvers are trying to cheat them right out of their cash. The characters are just trying to get the cash back, and maybe get something out of this deal, but probably not. But probably get their cash back. That's what they're going to be faced with. So I think that's where we're going to start. We're going to start like literally at the start of a fight with these 4 scavvers, and just go with it. And then they're going to find out that the Vesporan government wants to commandeer all the ships, and so space captains are going to be right. They're going to be like, "Hey, space captains, yeah, tough luck, suck it up. Please report to blah blah blah, offices, and we will see the proper use of your ship to support the glorious Vesporan Revolution." And the group's gonna be like, I don't know, hell no. And we'll see how that goes. So, good night, Scott. Rob, Nutmeg, thanks a lot. You sort of carried the night for me here. I do appreciate that, by the way. Dustin, good to see you. Who else do we have? We had a couple others. TV showed up a little bit. I think Lance showed up. But I've somehow lost part of my chat. So, oh well, so be it. All right. Well, if I didn't mention you, I do apologize. Guys, thank you very much. We are going to call it off for now. We will talk to you all, I think, later on. I'm going to move this back down to my proper spot. No, I don't think you upset anybody. I think we're good. If you upset us, we really, really need to think about our life choices. So we're going to try to get this. We're going to try to get the Runebearer game sometime this week. Get that in, and we'll try to start this this week or next week. Otherwise, I will talk to you all. Thank you very much, guys. Anyone who's lurking, thank you. I will talk to you later. And that's it. We'll see what Traveller looks like. Good night.